So why don't we just start right there, right now? Take a deep breath. Take another deep breath. And relax the tension in your body and your mind. Take one more deep breath. And kind of let go of the world and circumstances. And just really relax. Come back to your natural state of being, your natural center of gravity. Now, let us begin this beautiful process of introducing oneself to oneself. There's nothing quite like it. And this is possible for everyone. Again, remember, this is all about direct experience. It is not about what I say. It is not about the way your mind formulates these concepts. To a degree, having a map, an intellectual map or framework, is very helpful. And a lot of my work is geared towards the production of such clear maps. However, it all ends and begins with direct experience. That's all that eventually matters. Your innate, intrinsic, immediate, direct ability to know yourself beyond the filters and the veils and the assumptions that humanity has thrown upon you. A true discovery of what lies ever present beneath the surface level of your thoughts and your emotions and your sensations and your ideas about the world. Relaxation is key, because as we relax, our connection or bandwidth with the intellectual framework mind or analyzer or interpreter diminishes, and our bandwidth opens up instead to an intuitive capacity or faculty of recognition. We begin to quite naturally, when we're totally relaxed, we begin to navigate, operate, function at a deeper level of consciousness. And this deeper, more instinctual or intuitive level of consciousness is able to recognize very clearly, in a very real way, realities or experiences that the everyday, busy thinking mind simply does not have the tools to recognize. It's not within its capacity or function. So relaxation is valuable. It's not ultimately needed. The body and the mind do not ultimately need to be relaxed. But you will find it is helpful to have them relax as much as possible when you are attempting this, say, contemplation or meditation or recognition of your true self. It will be valuable to you. And you will find it's also the result of the recognition. So one could go from a stressful state of body and mind, where the body and the mind are in a stressful sort of state, an everyday state. And upon the recognition, upon the glimpse, upon the sense, that intuitive feeling of this unity ground of being, this deeper level of consciousness, this truer state of yourself, you will find that the body and the mind typically will adjust to that recognition by relaxing, by sort of opening up, if you will, by loosening up the tension and resting, relaxing. And so recognition of your true self tends to come with a great sense of ease, nourishment, and relaxation. And as it is trusted in more and more, you will even be able to experience states of causeless bliss. a bliss, a happiness, a transcendence, a clarity, a liberation that is without a cause. Most human beings only know happiness with a cause. They only know clarity with a cause. They only know liberation with a cause, or joy or satisfaction with a cause. But in the true state of what you are, this joy, this bliss, this freedom is ever present. And it's not affected by anything that you could ever possibly think into existence. Anything. It is completely and truly unaffected. So, for most of your life, you've been relating to yourself as a body with a thinking entity inside of it. And it's such a funny assumption once you've investigated it to the point of its resolve or its disappearance. But for the most part, we've been relating to ourselves as a clump of flesh and bones that somehow carries within its skull a little chamber with a little entity in it, which no neurologist has ever been able to find yet, by the way. That little chamber where the entity exactly resides. It's still a mystery. Perhaps because it's not there. And so that's how we relate to ourselves and others, unconsciously, on automatic pilot, on a day-to-day basis. This is how we spend the majority of our attention, our consciousness. But what is consciousness? What is that principle in us which is alive? Because just because the body moves, that doesn't mean that that defines the principle of aliveness. Motion does not quite grasp the true meaning of the word alive, or existent, or sentient, or intelligent, or awake, or conscious, or cognizant. Alive, that which is conscious, which is cognizant, which is able to respond, which can know itself and its experience. That is which is alive. That is that which is alive. So my definition of that which is alive equals that which we point to using words such as consciousness or sentience or pure existence. But the motion of the body does not quite capture that. It might be an indication that there is something which is alive, that there's something which is sentient and conscious, which is somehow connected to or channeled through or is making use of this body. So movement could be seen as an indication of that which is alive. But movement itself does not define that which is alive. It doesn't capture that which is alive. So what is being alive? And this is quite synonymous with you right now are conscious of my words. And when you relax the mind, and you don't have to be completely thoughtless. It'd be great if you could. It would be very expedient to our cause. It would help you recognize very instantly what I'm talking about. So by all means, try it, but without generating a lot of frustration about it. But try to have no thoughts for just a second. And, important, before you do it, it's not about not having thoughts. It's about what remains when you have no thoughts. It's about recognizing that which remains when you have no thoughts. That sense of I am, that sense of self, that sense of being alive, of existing, of being sentient and conscious and awake and clear and lucid. To recognize that I am lucid, that I am clear, that I am awake, that I exist, that I know that I am, when I have absolutely zero thoughts for just 2 to 5 seconds. Or even half a second, if 2 to 5 is too ambitious for now. But you will be able to do that, by the way. With continued practice, you will be able, at will, to suck all the oxygen out of the mind. Meaning, to take away all its fuel for thought, for conceptualizing. yet without falling asleep. You can stay fully awake, fully sentient, fully aware of yourself, of what remains of this pristine primordial state that we are right now being introduced to in our direct experience. With no thoughts. You can do that at will. Granted, that's typically a little difficult for people to do at first, and that's not a big deal. It's not a big obstacle. There's many ways around this fact that we have trouble stopping all thoughts at will. But if you can manage it for even a second, that would be great, because then you can have perhaps the most immediate, the most clear, the most direct experience-based introduction to this natural state, this indescribable natural condition of yourself beyond all your assumptions of you. Because if you can't think, you can't conceptualize. And pretty much everything you know on a day-to-day basis, you know because you've conceptualized it. You know because you've interpreted it. You know it because you've been thinking it. What do you know that's not a thought, really? Have you ever paused to ponder that? How much do you know directly that is not a thought? And you will probably find it's not much, because every experience you think you're having, you think you're having. So our thoughts will refer to things and objects and appearances and experiences. And we tend to know these experiences or things through the thought about them. So how much do you actually directly know that's not a thought? What do you know that's not a thought? That's not thought-based. And do you believe that you can know things without thinking? Important question. Do you believe that you can know something? We'll leave that up for what it is for now. Anything. Do you believe you can know things without thinking? Most importantly, yourself. Do you believe that you can know yourself without thinking about yourself? And if you can, even for a moment, you are directly introduced to the direct experience of your true self. Now, it might be the beginning, sort of light or glimpse of it. But nevertheless, it is a glimpse of the sun equating to the true self in this analogy. It is you catching a ray of the sun. When you stop thinking for just half a second, and you recognize the clarity, the clear space almost. It's like a space of consciousness, a space of existence, a space of knowing that you are, which remains when you don't think, but you stay aware. And I say this because a lot of people, when they stop thinking, they're actually still thinking, but they're thinking about nothingness or blankness, or they're just falling asleep. But can you stay awake after having stopped all your thoughts for just a split second? And in that split second, can you recognize that natural state, that natural space of I exist, of sentience, of intelligence, of that which is alive, which knows itself, that which knows that it is? Can you know the very fact that you are? And if you do, this realm will open up to you. This realm of consciousness will open up to you, and it will swallow up over time, with your permission, to the degree that you want it to, that you're ready for it, this basic space of empty, primordial, natural wisdom, unconditional love, bliss, clarity, consciousness, nirvana, enlightenment, self, the true self, the eternal, changeless state of your consciousness before you assumed you were this body, this mind, in this world, etc. There is something profound within you that never changes, which you can access at any given moment by slowing down thoughts, stopping thoughts altogether, and maintaining awareness of yourself as existent, or by simply relaxing your allegiance or attachment to thoughts. So the thoughts might still kind of pop up on your screen of consciousness. But because you're not giving them any meaning or significance or importance in that moment, your bandwidth opens towards this deeper intuitive level of consciousness that is already in touch with its natural condition. So that's why I say relaxation is so helpful, so valuable in the pursuit of a direct experience. So what's spirituality? But the understanding that there is a principle which is alive, that no scientist will ever be able to put in a box, that no biologist or neurologist will ever be able to categorize. That there's this ingraspable, unfathomable principle of intelligence, of intelligent existence, of aliveness, which perhaps does not have a form of its own, yet still exists, cannot be categorized or conceptualized or put in a box, yet exists, cannot be physically brought down, placed inside of a jar, put on a shelf, or written down inside of a book, yet it exists. Spirituality is the understanding, the conviction, the belief, and ultimately, ideally, the direct experience, which is what this entire retreat is going to focus itself on predominantly, okay, is to give you the tools that you need to directly recognize that which never changes so that you can merge back into your true self. Through the eye of the storm of this whole pandemic, to find your true self, to use this as an excuse, as a permission slip, to recognize the truth, to practice the truth of your being, of your existence.